Where'd I put it? Where'd it go? Oh no. Oh, it's not in here. It's over here. That's not it. No. It's not. No. Where'd I put it? I found it.
This just in, Armand didn't like that movie.
So Joey, since this was your recommendation, tell us about the movie Doom.
It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Best video game movie ever made. All-star cast, even if they weren't stars yet. Regular size rock. Karl Urban coming hot off of Lord of the Rings. Rosamund Pike before she's done much out of anything else.
Dr. Carmack, classified research order by ID 6627. We've had a level 5 breach. Implement quarantine procedures immediately. Implement quarantine procedures now.
So the movie opens on Mars. So we're on Mars.
Research facility on Mars.
UAC facility on Mars. They're doing an archaeological dig on the surface of Mars, and something crazy happens. You got monsters eating everybody, scientists are running away, and then we cut to Earth, Nevada, with The Rock. And he's like, we gotta go.
Hey everyone. Sorry. Christmas vacation's canceled.
Long conflict someplace quiet. Yeah, let's relax. Maybe just gonna stay right here.
Listen up, man. Leave is canceled.
So I played the Doom games, and I will say that this movie has little to nothing to do with the Doom games. Like, the setting is correct, like Mars, UAC, the corporation that's on Mars doing whatever. Everything else is like creative liberty. Because in the video game, which is like the key different thing is, in the video game, they're like mining energy from hell, because they open a portal to hell and they're like, let's take energy from it. Kind of like oil. And then demons come out, and then demons like eat everybody.
But the original video game story is actually super complex, and it's not just like the energy was just a cover. They were actually trying to harness and weaponize hell and the demons from hell. So that they kind of have nods to that, but because it's a movie, they have to have a more cohesive plot than we opened a portal to hell and are weaponizing demons.
They could have totally went like balls to the wall, like let's go crazy, because it's a video game and the setting is ridiculous. Like we're on Mars, we're taking a portal to Mars, and like there's monsters everywhere. Might as well just go all the way and be like, they're demons, they're coming out of the portal.
Well, they kind of did that. They had nods where they're like, this place is hell, and if I become one of these demons, then just kill me. And
but like it was like the humans were becoming monsters. It wasn't like monsters from another dimension.
This was made in 2005, and in that environment, zombies were huge. So this was Universal going, hey, we have the Doom IP. How can we tap into the video game world, but also the hits with zombies. I feel they're probably like, Doom, that's perfect. This can't fail.
Aww. Which brings me to the entire plot of the movie, which is, so these team of space marines go to Mars, led by The Rock. And you think, like, since it's led by The Rock and Keith Urban, like, they're going to be, like, buddies. They're going to be fighting the monsters together. But by the end of the movie, you realize that The Rock is actually the true monster. And he's trying to kill everybody in his way, including the survivors.
I actually thought that was pretty clever to, like, introduce The Rock as sort of your protagonist. And then you thought he was the protagonist for 50 to 75% of the film.
Yeah.
Till the very, I mean, you started getting, after that 50% mark, you start getting like tidbits, especially it's like, he's making calls that I can see why they're logical, but like, at the same time, it's like, you can't just shoot a human, you know, especially a fellow soldier.
Am I glad to see you guys? That thing cut right through the door. I tried to use the grenade, but it came at me too fast. Followed me through the arc and started to kill everybody. It's horrible.
There's no wound on his neck. He's clean.
I say, who's clean?
Yeah. He goes from, like, protagonist to anti-hero to straight-up villain.
Yeah, I thought that was really interesting.
Well, you could say
don't
that
really see that
because
too often.
he does get infected, and so you could say to some degree that he's being like impacted by that. Like that infection is bringing out the worst in him, which they kind of talk about. Like when you think about it, it's actually really deep in terms of like the mutation, because they talk about how the mutation, the monsters are only trying to mutate the other humans that will also become monsters. They're not trying to mutate any of the people like Karl Urban, John, the main character, because he's just gonna turn into like a super soldier, basically.
Right.
And so they prefer to just destroy him and then convert people like The Rock that are kind of bad at their core, even if they don't necessarily like maybe seem like a psychopath. They want to bring out the psychopath in people. And so that's where you have, you know, still mostly people-looking creatures that are like eating another person and like kind of zombies and like halfway between like full-blown like doom monster and just kind of like a terrible person that like they might have been before being infected.
Don't be a wuss.
And speaking of other movie callbacks, like, the aesthetics of this movie remind me of Alien 3.
And aliens.
Yeah.
Just the soldiers themselves
Space
going through the
Marines.
corridors and
Well, it's kind of that
sound
timeless
effects.
sci-fi where you're not really sure, like, this could be taking place in basically the 80s, or it could be taking place in, like, the 2040s, you know, kind of
or
sci-fi
2005.
where they're not using anything that, like, is really going to date them besides maybe their headsets, but because they're, like, a tactical SWAT team, basically, it makes sense that they'd have some kind of headset, and then they've got, like, the high-tech cameras that you don't see because technology in 2005 didn't actually have those, and they wanted everything to be really, you know, kind of minuscule.
It's pretty ambiguous, because, like, in the video game, it takes place in the 500 years from now, and, like, technology is, like, super advanced. And like this, it's kind of like our
Did
technology.
They even say when it's supposed to be taking place?
No.
I don't think they did. Yeah.
Like they were silent on that, probably on purpose to
That's
make
probably
it
a good move.
ambiguous, because like it took place in Papoose Lake, Nevada, which is
if I
Area
had to guess,
51.
I think they're aiming for like a 2050, 2060 kind of range, where it's like they're not too distant future. Most of the technology that you see is basically what we have today.
Yeah.
We've just found this portal, and so we're using that portal to do like research. But basically, everything else is pretty much what you would already be familiar with.
Yeah, and the portal is totally an ineffective way to get to Mars. Like, cause like when they go through the portal for the first time, you like see their like atoms like shoot through space, like they're being like telegrammed to like Mars. Why don't they just make like an actual portal, like 2 doorways? And just like go through the doorway.
Well, I think what it was saying was that they didn't build the portal; they found it.
Oh, okay.
And so then they like harnessed it and found this ancient civilization that I think they were hinting at was basically where humanity came from. That there were people there, And then it started to split into these, like, you know, superhuman people and monsters.
Okay.
The monsters started killing people, and so then the, like, survivors that were still, like, regular people that hadn't undergone, like, the change. Because they talk about how the early remains that they found were just, like, normal human remains, basically.
Right.
And so then they built a portal to escape there and come to Earth because of the monsters they had kind of created. So you've got
they
kind
blew
of
it up, and that's why it was an archaeological find.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have this kind of classic, you know, scientists' hubris trying to create, like, the perfect human being, and it goes bad because it's always what happens. And so then they abandon it, you know, very much like Jurassic Park almost, in a sense, where it's like, we're just going to leave and let whatever we've created just stay here and die out or survive on its own, basically. And then somebody else finds it and tries to do the same thing and has inevitably kind of the same results.
Call the mainland. Tell them to send the damn helicopters.
It's gonna come through the glass!
Yeah, I didn't expect the movie to be as smart as it was. Because there's a lot of good elements in there.
Sprinkled through. I kind of wish it was more of those elements. Like, I think that's what I appreciate about the Indiana Jones series is that, yeah, there's a lot of action, but it's more of like big chunks of like actual plot and like mystery happening. And then those are pieced together by action elements. So that's the action is the glue, where this was the opposite. It was more of like the glue to the action elements was the story, which it was good, but there, I mean,
it was probably longer than it needed to be as a movie for an action movie. Especially like if you've seen any of the Resident Evil movies, like if you went into this movie thinking you were going to see like a high budget Hollywood production, then you're probably going to be disappointed from the beginning. But if you go into it with it being like this is a kind of post-apocalyptic, you know, sci-fi kind of genre video game movie, that's going to be largely carried by like one character that's kind of like the only beacon of, you know, light or hope that's kind of left for society, then you're definitely not disappointed. And so I'd put this above like mostly all the Resident Evil movies that I've seen. Or a lot of other video
Isn't
game
like
movies.
the first Resident Evil movie just essentially this plot too? It's like you go down into a...
Well, that one has more of what you were talking about with like the secret corporations, and there's like Umbrella Corp, and you have kind of Alice is trying to figure out who she is. So it's a little bit different. This is more like clear cut, like they're not trying to hide stuff to you. They're just trying to reveal stuff piece by piece in like a storytelling kind of format.
One thing I didn't get, or I missed it or something, is what was John Grimm's problem? He was like looking outside the grated window, and then the rock comes through, and he's like...
So the background is his and Sam's parents, his and his twin sister's parents, they were working on this archaeological dig, and they died in some terrible accident, and so the dig was closed down. And like that is what he's kind of pointing to as all the problems that have been caused for like his life. And so like kind of it's made him this killer, you know, that he doesn't really want to be, but that's just who he is because he's kind of like dark and brooding as a result.
Right.
And so then his sister, unbeknownst to him until like we get to the, you know, the story of this movie, has like reopened that dig or helped with reopening that archaeological dig, where he kind of feels probably to some degree like it's a little bit cursed or something like that. So
that was just a small nugget that I didn't feel like played too heavily into the timeline of events.
It was just kind of there.
Yeah.
It's like here's a little exposition about his character.
Yeah. But it was nice to like see
There's a little bit about give him a little bit of depth, but like the same way they introduce his sister as a character before they tell you who she is. And then you learn like, oh, that's, you know, the main character's like sister, and then you learn, oh, that's his twin, you know, so they're closer than just siblings because they're, you know, twins as twins tend to be.
And that was good, but like I felt like his character is pretty underdeveloped.
Well, he's supposed to be the everyman character. He's the Harry Potter, you know, the Daniel Radcliffe of Harry Potter. He's the Elijah Wood of Lord of the Rings. He's anybody could identify as this person because he's not so unique or off the wall kind of a character. He's very, kind of basic.
The surrogate for the viewer to put themselves into. Yeah.
Which leads directly into the actual first person sequence where like you feel like you are the character at that point.
Goes full video game at that point.
Exactly, it's phenomenal.
Anyways, so Rutch, would you throw back or throw away?
I won't be hurt personally by something.
Yeah. I probably would never watch this again. It was a good one to watch for a first time pass, especially just to be introduced to the Doom IP. But like you watched it 3 times, and like you said that you were not surprised by any of the jump scares or anything like that along the way. So to me, that doesn't sound like good rewatchability. So I would not throw back to this one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Joey?
I'd throw back. I mean, like I said, I've already seen it 3 times. I'd watch it again. It's not like, oh, I'm putting this on my favorites list and I'm going to watch it all the time. But I'd watch it with people who haven't seen it. And I think it's just kind of a fun, action-heavy kind of like the darker tones of the movie, put you kind of in that like they set the tone kind of for what you're watching.
Oh yeah.
So I'd watch it again, but I'm not gonna like seek it out. So
well, it's definitely a great first time watch. Watch it once, but I probably wouldn't throw back to it. And that's usually my standard of it's a good movie. It's like how rewatchable is this?
Right. And for me, like I agree with both of you. But I gotta throw away on this one because like the plot elements are there.
You're too much of a fan of the games to allow yourself to be a fan of this.
But even like putting the game aside.
My question is,
right?
What is a better video game adaptation into movie form?
Have you seen Jumanji?
That's not a video game. There's an original with Robin Williams that is a board game.
What year is this?
And then they made another one that was just Jumanji in space, and they called it Zathura.
Oh,
still not a video game.
Oh my goodness. Okay.
Dax Shepard was in that one. It was fun. For Dax Shepard.
I mean, off the top of my head, there aren't many good video game adaptations.
Well, because we've got Resident Evil, Doom, Tomb Raider.
I would say Tomb Raider.
You think the Tomb Raider movies are better than this one?
The recent Tomb Raider was pretty good.
Not the Angelina Jolie ones, like the new
recent the Alicia Vikander.
The one-off one.
Yeah.
They're probably not going to make another one.
Unfortunately.
No, I heard they were working on another one. Yeah.
Because it didn't do too well, but we watched it.
Cool.
It was okay.
Awesome.
It's cool.
It was
that one is where I have played the games that it's based on, and it doesn't hold a candle to the storytelling and character development that are in the games, which is impressive for a movie to not be able to do in comparison to games because, like for this, we're talking about this is based on a shooter that has no story and is not intended to really have a story until they got like 4 or 5 games into the franchise.
And the reason why I would throw away is because like the plot elements that are there are so interesting, but they're better done in other movies, like the Alien franchise.
That's fair.
Even the prequel, Prometheus, is like it's not the best film, but like you have
it
all the elements there.
It definitely has more history, more lore. It goes deeper. Like that's actually a really good way to say it. Like I liked the story elements that were here, and the action was fine. But it's also I see that action in any film nowadays, especially now that we're 14 years later.
Right.
Like the action is
2020.
The action is like way better. But the story elements, like you said, are done better in other films. It was nice in this film, but it is done better elsewhere. So that's a good reason to throw away.
Yeah,
so 2 throwaways and 1 throwback.
I would say definitely watch it, but after that you could.
Whoop.
Bye.
Bye.
I feel like you're always breaking stuff when we
I'm not breaking anything.
Go to hell.